The world is a global village.
And that's because information travels beyond boundaries.
And on this morning on ITV,
we guarantee unbiased analysis on topical issues
that will educate you,
entertain you.
So join us.
Join us.
Join us.
Join us.
Join us.
Join us.
Every Sunday to Thursday, 7 a.m. to 10 a.m. on your ultimate news and current affairs program on television. This morning on ITV TMI. Join us.
It's a great thing you're staying with us on TMI this Thursday morning. I'm joined by two gentlemen. I'll start from my immediate left. Professor Julius Iyasele is the chairman, Academic Staff Union of Universities, ASU Unibe chapter. Thank you for coming on the program, Prof.
Thank you, for having me on
It's
this
appreciated.
yeah.
All right, next to him is another gentleman, a politician and an economic analyst par excellence, Uyigwe Fred. We also appreciate your presence on the program this morning.
Thank you, Uyi, and good morning to you all viewers.
Let me begin with you, Fred. Let's talk about the state of the nation in summary. The Vice President is really speaking up about the unity of the country, which also means that he understands that there's so much of, if you will, polarization in this country right now. He understands that there's so much of disintegration going on. He has a handle on those elements and he's addressing those issues. But people are also saying just speaking up about these issues won't be enough. Government would have to go the full hog to address these issues. Nigerians are getting, as it seems, more divided by the day. Yet we're saying we're united, we'll sing the national anthem, and we still recognize the pledge, as it were. Are we really addressing this issue head on?
We cannot say Nigeria is united at this time. What he expresses the position of government and his own personal opinion, or want to believe. At least let me give him credit for that. That it's also his own opinion. But more that he's expressing the position of government. Nigeria has never been this divided since I became an adult in this country. And reading of the history of Nigeria from the beginning, there was no time it was this divided even before I became an adult. So we have a house that is collapsing on us with the foundations shaking, trembling, vibrating. And some people want to remain in there, perhaps to cook a meal and still feed on that meal, hoping that the house will not collapse on them. This is a collapsing nation. It is collapsing. When IPOP started to agitate for self-determination, I was among those who kicked against it. But they saw what many of us are now seeing. Because what has happened since the agitation about 3 years ago, or 2 years ago, has come to the fore, where we are having a situation where people have lost confidence in the unity of the nation.
We're going to. I need us to push this conversation about unity of the nation a bit further, but we just, at this point, by all means, need to take a break, and then we're back shortly to continue talking about the unity of Nigeria. Stay with us.
Hello there. My name is FX the Entertainer, and I'm here to introduce to you the first door-to-door delivery service in Benin City, Edo State, Nigeria. OrionExpress.com.ng. Guess what? Whether it's hotel bookings, airport pickups, food or drinks delivery, whatever delivery you want around Edo State, Nigeria, we'll get it to you at your doorstep. And it's very affordable. And of course, we are time conscious. Just log on to www.orionexpress.com.ng and you'll be glad you did. I especially recommend it. And I know that you'll be glad when you go through our website. Our details are on your screen. And guess what? We would make sure that you smile at every delivery. www.orionexpress.com.ng. Have a good day.
We blamed ourselves enough. We complained enough. We've cried enough. We've fought ourselves enough. We've hated ourselves enough. It's time to do what the Bible says. Come together as a people. Come, let's build a new virile nation. If we all want to look at the ugly side of Nigeria, we find nothing good at it. I do not know any other country in Africa that is as big as ours, that is as populated, and so much blessed with natural resources, blessed with natural gift of God, whosoever you are. This is one country that we have to join our hands to build it together and get a new nation. Nigeria must not be destroyed. We can make that determination. Whether you are in the police, whether you are in the army, particularly those of you that God has given grace in position of rulership, we have a right to call the nation to new attention. God is able to heal Nigeria.
We appreciate you staying with us. Fred, you were making a point a while ago about the unity of this country and the opinion of the Vice President.
Yes. We once had a federal government, a federal system in place. But what we have now, it's a contraption, a unitary contraption, a unitary government contraption with the toga of federalism. We don't have a federal system of government. The federal system of government we had going into independence.
Well, we once had.
Yes, what we had then. Yes, we once had. Is what Nigerians were excited about. Because of the very diversity of the elements that comprise Nigeria. The different faiths, the different tribes, the different languages, the different cultures. It all lends themselves to a federal system of government, much more than other federal systems of government that we know, like the United States, former Soviet Union, and other federations. For us, having a federal system of government is not a choice. It's a necessity. It's something we have to be able to hold on to our original elements or our inherited elements, our faith, our religions, our languages. But after the Civil War, what we have had, it's a gradual erosion of federalism and a replacement of unitarianism, which we cannot work with, because it's a system that cannot bind us. It's like telling everybody, oh, shed all your beliefs, shed all that you've always been, and become something that is strange to you. What we must do, let me say that first. What we must do is to go back to the drawing board and begin to redesign our constitution. We need to write a constitution that does not lend itself to being abused as the one we now have is tend to lend itself to. Now it's so easy to abuse the constitution because of what we have in the content of
I would really love us to expand that aspect of this conversation that has to do with the Constitution, but I would love to talk about that with Barrister Nosa Adams in a bit. But let me bring you in here, Professor. You are old enough apparently to understand the origin of One Nigeria, but he made an allusion to the Civil War, how that's, in his opinion and assessment, has eroded gradually the unity of this country. A few persons I've heard talk about this issue would say the conversation about our unity changed remarkably just after the Civil War. Do you share that sentiment?
Well, if you look at it, for me, I like working from first principles.
Okay.
What led to the Civil War?
Is it not the same repression of a people that is also happening now? That is, as it were then, the Igbos felt that in the convolution that called the One Nigeria or something like that had marginalized them in several facets of life and all that. And since then, every ethnic group has learned how to now begin to love their people, to be, more retracted than extending hands of fellowship across ethnic boundaries. So, arising from the question you had earlier asked, it is very clear that for now we don't have a one Nigeria anymore, because several socio-cultural or ethnic groups have arisen from different ethnic areas. If you look at it in Nigeria, of course, in the north you have Miati Allah, you have Arewa, you have several others. Then you go to the Yoruba group, you have the Afediferes, you have the Odua group with several names. And then in Edo State here, Edo Delta, Midwest is reverberating very seriously. You have the Midwest movement and all that. Then, even then, you have in the Niger Delta, you have also a group. Of course, from the beginning, the average Igbo man had not rested. From Biafra, they moved over to several Ohanese, several other groups, and then now you have the militant arm, the IPOB and all that. So, and everybody is spitting fire. All the groups are all spitting fire and saying anything they like the way it is without moderation. And what that thing is, as if even the government itself they've caved in, have accepted the position. And so what has happened here is that the bond holding these different groups together as a country has thinned down and has lost strength. And so what that means is that we are falling apart as packs of cards. And so we can't say we have a one. But looking at it, the truth about it is that we can't say it was after the Civil War, because something led to the Civil War.
In other words, it's been a long time coming.
Yes, because I read a book by the Tragedy of Victory by Labi Issa, who said that in this country at the beginning, if you look at the military, for instance, the Igbos have more soldiers. And knowledge came to a group of people. Before you know it, it is now the northern group that have become more in our military and all that. And this had continued, and that was what snowballed, of course, to it was an agreement, of course, between Ojukwu and Obafemi Awolowo that everybody was going to secede. It's something that led to it. What even caused it then is not even worse than what we're presently experiencing. The level of nepotism in this country, especially even now, by the present Buhari administration, is unheard of a country where you have different interest groups. So what are we saying here? It is not after the Biafran War. Of course, that would have potentiated it, reminded everybody that we are not of one blood or whatever. And so different groups have been started. And what it's supposed to mean is that all of this, having what we call unity in diversity, people bringing to bear, their expertise. Like you have heard that if you want to talk about the industry, you talk about maybe the Yoruba's institutions and all that, but you go across to the east, the Igbos, of course, when it comes to commerce and trade, then they are best. But the north, they have given it to themselves, like you have heard that they are born to rule. So as it were, they have come to a point of knowledge that they have the political prowess and all of that, and they have exhibited it very strongly. But that this cannot go on ending. without others reacting very
those reactions are some of the issues we must find a way to address on the
Yeah.
program this morning. But let me place on record that Honorable Nosa Adams, Esquire, politician and obviously a lawyer, is also with us on the program this morning. Good to have you.
Well, good morning, Uyi. Good morning, Nigerians.
Let me put the ball right in front of you. Obviously, you're a lawyer. Not too long ago, Senator Adeyeye held the Constitution up on the floor of the Senate, and he said unequivocally that this Constitution, in his words, cannot give us progress, that this Constitution cannot give us unity. And he talked about many things about the Constitution, how that until those issues fundamentally are addressed, Nigeria cannot make progress on many fronts. What do we do going forward? I mean, if we have to address these issues, because this is the Constitution we have as of today, the 1999 Constitution as amended.
Well, you see, there is already a consensus. There is a consensus among the elites, so to say, in Nigeria, that what we have now is not truly a people's constitution. There is already this strong agitation that we need a truly autonomous constitution. Autonomous in the sense that truly indigenous, truly people's oriented, a constitution that will reflect absolute reflection, that will show the absolute reflection of the desires of the people of Nigeria. That consensus is already very much in existence, and we have also discovered that Nigerians are yearning for a very thorough, comprehensive, and sincere reappraisal of the amalgamation or the unity or the infusion or fusion of the various ethnic nationalities that constitute the geographical entity that is now called Nigeria. Because the unevenness, the imbalances that characterize our socio-political structure is what is leading to this agitation and the tension that is generating. That is to say that we have all agreed that we need to take a second critical and in-depth look at the current document that is binding us together, or the current constitution under which this country is put together or is in existence. But the problem had always been, what is the method? What are the modules that should be adopted? Why the agitators down south, predominantly down south here, are saying that yes, there must be a system that will break down what we have now as a nation, and the country should be properly restructured so as to truly have what is, in the true sense of it, a federal system that will have respect for the components and have some level of independence for the component region or states that will constitute the country called Nigeria. That is to say, we have a very strong unit that will not constitute the center, that will not hold the center, that will not be too strong.
Right.
Because the way it is now, the center is too strong for everybody's comfort. But because, sorry to say, because of the Hausa Fulani oligarchy or hegemony, some agitators, although they agreed that the country need to be restructured, but the mode they are putting up, the method they are putting up through which they want the restructured effected is significantly different from the way it is being put up from the agitators from the southwest, southeast, the middle belt, the Midwest region, and in addition to the south region.
In other words, there's no convergence.
There is no convergence
as to the mode.
Yeah, as to the mode which we used in altering the system we are operating now. But I have a point, and that has been my point. Even when I was doing research for my master, for my LLM, I was very, very conscious of one thing. What is the problem? Is it the constitution? Is it the laws? Is it the constitution that is really the problem we are having? I agreed that we need to take a very critical look at the constitution and look at our structure as it is currently constituted. But is that the problem of Nigeria as it stands today? When I look at all the books and in my research and documentations, I discovered that that is not the problem of Nigeria.
So what's the problem?
No, that is it. The problem of Nigeria is the process of recruiting leadership, the modus of enlisting leadership, the kind of leadership. Because Nigeria, we have all the legal frameworks you can think of. We have all the laws that can stabilize and engender peace and progress for this country. We have all the legal frameworks, and we have all the administrative or regulatory authorities. But when it comes to the personalities that will operate this authority, or that will operate this laws or the legal framework, that is where we have problem. That is to say, if you permit me, I will tell you, if it is the executive, we must be conscious of how we recruit leadership. If it's the judiciary, we must be conscious of how we enlist leadership. If it's the legislature, we must be very, very careful and conscious of how we enlist or recruit or select leadership. That is the problem. Because if you look at all these developed countries we want to try and look up to, it has always been leadership. People celebrate Lekoyu. It's leadership. We celebrate America today. It's leadership. Nigeria will even have more law than the British people. Britain colonized us, but today we have more laws than the almighty British. The people there is the leadership. We must take a look and restructure this country for me to some extent. Not as to restructure, as to create crisis. That people are saying if we restructure Nigeria, we'll have state police. I'm not subscribing to state police.
You don't believe in state
police? No, I don't believe in state police. Because if you have a state police, you are going to lay a foundation for the crisis that cannot be contained in this country. Imagine we have state police in a state like Rivers. If we have state police in a place like Zamfara, I can possibly tell you what Yari would have used state police to do in Zamfara state.
You didn't mention what Wike probably could also.
No, I'm just coming. That's why I'm not partisan here.
Yes.
What I'm saying is, what we need is not a state police, rather is to restructure our policing method and equip the police to modern day policing.
Exactly. Incidentally, state police is one of the
No, listen.
It's one of it's a serious point.
But for our country now, for our evolving democracy,
you believe we don't need state police?
We don't need police at this stage.
I'm going to come to
because it's going to be misused.
Yes.
But let me sum it up like this. What I'm saying, basically, is that the unity, peace, and progress of this country, which of course will give us the development that we so desired, is situated basically on the recruitment and enlistment of leadership. If we have the right leadership, I'm telling you, this country will be so developed with the speed of light.
I can see from the way I'm going to come to you again, Prof. From the way you're sounding, I mean, your passion about leadership cannot be misplaced, which a lot of persons have said is the undoing of Nigeria, and that is a reality we have to deal with for a long time to come. Before I get to you, Prof, let me talk to you again, Fred. You've seen both sides of the coin, as I say. You've seen it into Nigeria, you've seen it over there in the US. Incidentally, the Vice President, Professor Yemi Osinbajo, had also made reference to the United States on Tuesday when he was speaking in Lagos. And he talked about how that regardless of how diverse that country is, they've been able to harness it to their own advantage. And come to think of it, in reality, you have the African-American community, you have the Hispanics, you have the Asians, predominantly the Indians and Chinese, you have the Arabs and so on and so forth. Yet this country is waxing stronger by the day, the largest economy in the world, the police of the world. I mean, by all standards, #1 country in the world. I mean, despite all the issues, they also have to grapple with every other day. What exactly are we not getting right as a country? Because, I mean, Honorable Nusa Adams had talked about leadership extensively. Yes, that's on the one hand, but is it possible there are some other ingredients we are overlooking as a country?
We are overlooking too much of what we needed to have incorporated in our system. The American Constitution, if you break it down, they are in long pages, you can Google that. But if you break it down, it's about 20 to 24 pages. That's what it will come to. Regular A4 pages or A3. What was the other?
The foolscap
yeah, the foolscap page or even the shorter one.
Right.
That's what you have. Here we have a constitution that is over 200 pages and yet cannot address fundamental issues. See, Osinbajo was wrong when he said, though the United States has a diverse population, they are able to manage their system. The United States level of diversity doesn't nearly come close enough to that of Nigeria. We have stark cultural differences. We have stark historical differences. We have stark religious differences. So what are we talking about? Because for us, like I said earlier, the issue, the necessity for a federal system of government for us goes beyond just a desire or just an option. Because the option you have is either a unitary system of government or a federal system of government. And everything in between is that spectrum, how you manage it. Because of our own composition, very composition, we need to be at the extreme of federalism rather than dancing somewhere in the middle close to a unitary system of government. What we don't have are many. You know, when people began to agitate for restructuring, there were statements by different leaders in the society that they don't understand what restructuring means. And that becomes very troubling to say that they do not understand what restructuring means. Already right now we have a structure that has failed us monumentally. We are not moving, we are moving in circles. We are in a charade. We are as if we are in a circus, going round and round, going nowhere. But what we must do, and I will say this, if a theory is wrong, there's no how you will manipulate that theory to be able to produce a productive result. You cannot practically produce a productive result. What we have is a theory that it's deficient. It would not work given our history, given our elements. We must sit down to revisit, given the 60 years of experience we have, with the issue that Britain just went, the United Kingdom just is grappling with right now, let me just went through, is still grappling with, is Brexit. They have for over 30 years been a member of an economic system, of nations. The economic system, the EU. The EU.
Yes.
European Union. Okay? But they have looked at it and said, hey, this thing is not working. It doesn't favor us. We can do better on our own. So we need to pull out of it. And they had a referendum about that. And the people chose to pull out of it. There has never been a referendum as to whether we want to live together as a united people, especially in the manner in which we are living together. You cannot live together with people that do not love you in the same house. Let me not say people you do not love. You cannot, because you can't sleep. Because every day you are afraid. What we have, it's a system that has taken the majority of tribes and tongues of Nigeria hostage. And we cannot, if you ask any person that has been kidnapped before, the first thing they will tell you is that they want their freedom. They realize it. They realize the importance of their freedom.
Right.
That is where we are collectively. Collectively, we have come to appreciate the fact that we are being held hostage, and we will no more continue to accept it. We reject it, and we are going to fight for it until we are free enough to be able to realize our God-given abilities, talents, and potentials.
All right.
That is what
you're going to add to that, Sir Prof.
Yeah, no, it's just when he said about kidnapped, if you ask, I say I'm here for I'm experienced.
Okay.
Yes,
You've been there, done that.
Oh, yes, kidnapped but released. Okay, engaging the issue, I want to say that the Abiola Tofa era of Nigeria is gone. That is an era when somebody from another ethnic group will offer willingly his or her votes for another person from another ethnic. We have lost that because we have lost trust, we have lost sincerity in this country. Nigeria is so divided now. So if you are engaging the mode of throwing up leaders and all that, you are addressing consequences but not the action. You know, the criteria for engagement of any relationship is written down. For a husband and a wife, a man engaging the wife knows what the woman or the woman knows if you come into a house what you are supposed to do. When you were being engaged in this organization, of course, the rules and all that were read out to you and all that. What you need to do, the way the comportment, your position, and all of that. That what I mean is that what brings about the structural element, which is our constitution, did not take cognizance of the different ethnic nationalities, I mean to say, of this country. For instance, if you look at Nigerian constitution, just like you said that they did, that is very, very correct. Nigerian constitution didn't take into consideration that we are a secular state. It provided only for a people and all that. And of course, if you, an example, for instance, is that the issue going on in Edo State, the constitution does not say this is the mode of dressing you must use for an inauguration. It didn't say this is the time that an inauguration must be done and all that. So now, the imbroglio, for instance, in Edo State is difficult to track because it was not provided for in the constitution. And so the governor, for instance, has acted within the confines of the constitution. And that is what we are saying here. So what we are saying is that our constitution had failed. That is why in 2014 or thereabout, there was a constitutional conference. People gathered with Nigerians, spent money and all that, you know, to look at these issues. And all. But of course, still today, that is in the cooler because a group or an ethnic group of people have refused that has to be attended to. So what I'm saying here is that we have to go back to first principles. We have to return back to the drawing board to, you know, accurately take into consideration all the consequences that we are now noticing as a people, which the constitution did not provide for. Until we do that, the idea, if you bring up tomorrow and say, okay, we must follow this method of carrying out our election, it will not work. Because at the end of the day, any man who is going to vote, it's either because he's hungry and must collect money, or because you must vote for your brother. If, for instance, the best, as at that time, you remember, was the Mosu method of your A4 method of you queue behind. If we really want to return bags, okay, let's try this. Those are some of the methods that we can now adopt. But it is not without error, because Nigerians are divided, you won't find somebody from one ethnic group willingly voting for another. That was why I said the Tofa Abiola era, when though Tofa is from Kano, people from Kano voted for Abiola. Cannot hold any more in this country. The blind man knows that it's already raining. And so what you are going to find here is that everybody, he has retracted. That is what we call response to stimulus. To your own tent, Israel. We have returned back. So until another constitution and all of that is drawn, can you look at our National Assembly, the pictorial presentation of our National Assembly? What does that building look like? Does it look like a building that accounts for a secular state? Many people will tell you that it has taken the dome shape of a mosque. And so those are the issues. So from people are digging up things, are complaining about so many things that people didn't know about in the past. The quota system I keep talking about, for instance, what does it provide for? Today you are still talking about quota system. You are still talking about educationally disadvantaged state. That is just to account for some. You didn't take into consideration some other. If you go, it's poverty not at a point and all that. So these are the various issues that we have. We shouldn't deceive ourselves. Yes. Sincerity, we've lost sincerity in this country. We have lost trust, and so it's best to return back to the drawback.
Let's see that possibility of returning. I mean, we have a second discussion coming up quite shortly, but let me come back to a lawyer now, Barrister Adams. You talked about, you made reference to the Constitution a while back, and everybody has done that here. If we have to alter this Constitution, it's not going to be a walk in the park. We understand that constitutional review process is very rigorous. Given where we are today, what's the possibility we can do that within the shortest possible time?
Well, I don't think it's difficult to review the People's Constitution if you want to make it a truly people-oriented constitution. Let me tell you, we are just evolving as a nation.
Okay.
We're just evolving as a nation. And in evolution, so many things happen. You pass through a process. It could be a crucible, hot. Yeah. But at the end of the day, it's what comes out of it that matters. We are just coming up as a nation. Yes, I don't agree that we have come of age. No. As long as there is the desire, because if you take a plebiscite now, in this country, and want to find out if the country constitution should be taken a second look at, you'll be surprised that virtually everybody will agree that yes, there is need for us to take a look at the constitution. The reason why we are all conscious, or everybody seems to be interested in altering or taking a look at the constitution, is to generally make sure or to engender, like I said earlier, development, peace, progress for this country, and by extension for its citizens. So what I'm saying is, if there was a constitutional conference in this country, and they came up with a far-reaching report, all right, what is stopping us as a nation from dusting that document, taking a look at it, and see the one we can easily implement?
I love the fact that you brought that up, because recently...
Exactly, that's what stopped us, because we all agreed then that the constitutional conference, they did a very marvelous, good job. Yes. Well, it was generally agreed. Brilliant submissions, brilliant suggestions, came up with a very beautiful and generally acceptable, because before that document was prepared, the North, the South, the East, the West, they will give and take. There were agreement and disagreement, and eventually they now took a consensus position, and came out with a clean copy. What is stopping us from taking a very critical look at that document?
I'm very sure that's the same question. I mean, the president, President Jonathan was saying.
Yes, exactly. When he told
President Buhari.
So the idea of
hold on a second.
Yes.
He told him, he said, you should go back to that that report from the confab to implement that report. But conversely, some analysts are now also saying that the former president, Dr. Goodluck Jonathan, could have used executive prerogative to push some of the elements, some of the items in that report. Do you share that aspect?
No, that's why we are saying take a second look at.
Okay. The report.
The report and look at it. Is it possible for us to implement the report now? Is it possible for us to make amends when there are mistakes? If there are imputations that does not conform with the present day reality, can we review it? It's not cast in stone. But what I want to say, which is to me, that's my position as a person, is I don't think that is the basics of our problems. It is not the foundation of our problem, because in the First Republic, we were operating a parliamentary system of government. It was so criticized. Nigerians said, no, we don't want this system, we don't want this constitution. The constitution was reviewed in 1979. We came up with a new constitution where we now adopted a presidential system of government. It's still the same complaint we find ourselves. The reason for the coup of January 1966 was the same reason we are still giving now. Ethnic division, regional segregation, nepotism, corruption, uneven development. These are the same problems, the same complaints we are still confronted with. I can tell you the document you are going to produce, as beautiful, as generally acceptable as it will look or seem, there will still be lacuna. Because all over the country, all over the world, I mean, there is no perfect constitution. What we have all over the world, all this developed world, what we have are perfect people, or near to perfect people, or near to perfect leadership. Selfless leadership. Leadership that will not be regional. Leadership that will not have regional sentiment. That will not have tribal sentiment. That will not have religious sentiment. That will not have clannish and cultist affiliation. A broad-minded nationalistic leader. That is what we need in this country. Now, the problem do you know why we are told this mess before ourselves? This Hesme, Boko Haram, banditry. All these banditry, all these guys we are having now. It is because, sorry to say, the leaders we have, or the leader we have now in this country, is a clannish and regional and religious leader. That is the problem we have found ourselves. And that one is now what is creating the north-south dichotomy. That is it. If we have a broad-minded nationalistic leader, will you be surprised that Nigeria will not even bother much about the document we are operating as a nation? I'm not saying that we should not take a look at our constitution. That's not what I'm saying. But I'm saying that we need the right leadership in the right places. Because I have said before in government, if you have a mindset to develop, to work, and you are focused, and you don't have distraction, and you have the ingenuity, and you surround yourself with people who are determined to support you to succeed, you'll be surprised, you'll be amazed at what you as a leader will give to the people. But by the time you have the wrong leader, or a right leader is surrounded by the wrong persons, it's a leadership crisis. Look at what is going on in Edo State now. The problem we are faced with in Edo State is basically personality and issue of ego. Yeah, I will tell you I am in charge. I will tell you I am in position. I will tell you I control the federal. I will tell you I will do this. I will do this. Oh no, okay, you come. I'm waiting for you. That is just ego and conflict of personalities or personal interest. But if we have a look, Do you know why people still celebrate Abrosali? Abrosali was a selfless leader. He never had a personal house in this town. As we speak, we never built a personal house. I'm not even sure he had a personal house in Ekpoma, his village. That is leadership. Look at how Malaysia and Singapore got developed. This Dubai, people are going to rush to Dubai now, was a complete desert. It was leadership that turned it around. Because once you have the right leadership, investors will come. Once you have the right leadership, your economy will be stabilized. The way it is in Nigeria, the mess we are into, the way we are drifting, I don't see how we're going to come out of it and survive. Because the leadership is fraught with so many problems and setbacks.
Okay. I just want this gentleman to add 1 minute of their opinions to this. Let me begin with you, Fred.
With all due respect, I will differ from his position.
Okay.
That it is just a matter of looking for the right leadership. Alexander Pope, a political philosopher of 2 centuries ago, said, "For forms of government, let fools contend. What is best administered is best." That is to say that it doesn't have to depend on people. It has to depend on systems. Obama came here. He didn't come here. Passing through Africa, refusing to stop over in Nigeria. And Hillary Clinton before that said that what Nigeria needs to do is to strengthen its institutions. If you have strong institutions, those will be institutions, excuse me, sir. Those will be institutions that have mandates, that have robust designs. Then you cannot go wrong. You cannot go wrong because the structure does not allow for abuses. The United States, or let me not use the United States alone, the developed countries are developed because they have institutions that do not permit abuses. Ours is a system that allows for all kinds of abuses because of the very deficiency of the design of the operating document called the Constitution. To become the President of the United States, ballot access is $500. All those 20 presidents, all those 20 aspirants you saw yesterday, this morning, and yesterday contesting, paid at the most.
That's on the platform of the Democratic Party.
Yes, paid at most $500. And if you do not even want to pay the $500, you pay, you gather some 10,000 signatures of people who say, well, we will support you. And that becomes your ticket.
In lieu of $500?
Yes, in lieu of $500 to begin to aspire for the position. But here in Nigeria, it was 5 million. From 5 million, it went up to 12 for some parties. Then it went up to 25. And now it's at 50. What does that do? It eliminates all the intelligentsia from the process.
Fair-minded people.
People who are fair-minded, people who are capable from the process. It brings in Shylocks, people who want to invest in a process from where they can reap
and profits.
And profit.
Capitalists.
So that is not what we want. So that's why we must go back to the Constitution and put stops to such practices. That is for that. Then he mentioned the suggestion of state policing. I will quickly just touch on that. The United States, where I lived for over 30 years, does not practice state policing, contrary to what many people believe. They practice what you call professional policing. Professional policing is different from state policing. the city police or the municipal city police, okay, is larger than the state police, and you have very many cities in each state. Then you have county, which is local government. You have county police. Then you have state police. The only place where you have federal police is in Washington, D.C. You don't have federal police anywhere else. If you have professional police, whereby you go to a police college, a police institution, to train as a security agent, and then enlist as a policeman, you can take your service to any state you so desire after sitting for reciprocity examinations or tests to enable you function in that state as a security agent. That is professional policing. Mayor Lee Brown was a captain, a police captain or police chief in Atlanta, Georgia, who performed very well. And Houston, Atlanta, Georgia is the 5th largest U.S. city. Houston, the 4th largest city, saw what he did in Atlanta and then invited him, of course, attracted him, let me put it that way, by a better package, by a good package, to come and do in Houston what he did in Atlanta, Georgia, several states away. And New York liked what he did in Houston. And New York invited him to come to New York to do what he did in Atlanta and in Houston. In New York, where he had over 50,000 police under his command. And then President Clinton liked what he did in New York, Houston, and Atlanta, and invited him to be the drug czar of the United States. So that is professional policing. If we have professional policing, then the policemen now know that in performing very well, they can get better service, they can get attraction, they can get employment.
So that way they will stay motivated.
Exactly.
So let me allow.
No, please. Let me I want something.
Yes.
You see, when we talk of strengthening the institutions,
yes,
and we have the institutions that are properly strengthened. It is the people that operate the institutions. That's why I was saying that we have enough legal frameworks. The legal frameworks are there, the institutions are there, but it is not because we are still evolving. We need to become, because it's dynamism we're talking about here. Society is on itself, it's even dynamic.
Right.
There must always be regular look at all our institutions on the legal framework. But head and shoulder above this consideration we are talking about, we still basically need the right persons to operate these institutions.
So there's a question mark over the processes.
The checks and balances.
That is it.
The checks and balances are not there to preclude abuse.
Let's allow
to preclude abuse.
So we can move to our next discussion.
The truth about it is that the importance of a good leader cannot be overemphasized.
That's it.
What we need as a nation is to get a fair-minded leader. The leader, that remembers the classes of her citizens or his citizens, that will take care of X, A to Z of a country. But how do we get to such a leader? We also require strengthening the institutions, because anybody can misbehave.
Right.
This same leader we have in this country now, in 1984, yes, 84 or whatever, the Buhari Diagon head sway.
From 1983 to 1985.
Yeah, thereabout. They were praised in so many of their policies that they brought out then. The Q culture you still observe till today was brought in by them. But however, whereas they made laws that you cannot take a minor to Mecca, Idiagbon's minor followed him.
Exactly.
That is because, although he was a good leader, but the structure or the constitution didn't emphasize, maybe. You understand? It didn't provide consequences for such an action. We must engage our consequences vis-a-vis our actions. So all of this, they are all married together.
Of course.
That is strengthening of the institution, which is supposed to be brought about by the provisions in the Constitution, and then the throwing up of our leaders. We must get there. We must
both those who are elected and those appointed.
Yes. How do we get, apart from, it is one leader, the head of a nation. Nigerians are good followers. I'm telling you that if a man comes up tomorrow and say, I thought when somebody came up and said, I'm no more with you, siren, I thought he was going to match action with his words. But then you saw a departure immediately. So it was, you have a good leader, the man that leads by example. Nigerians will follow.
All right. That is, let's take it quickly.
Listen, let me quickly say this.
Yes.
We are all familiar with the term. Power corrupts, and absolute power corrupts absolutely. The very desire to have a system that separates the arms of government is to bring about checks and balances, to bring about curtailing abuses, where you do not want the juror to be the judge
in his own case,
case. And where you do not want the lawmaker, let me use that rather, where you do not want the lawmaker to be the executor of the law and the judge of the law. So we have three arms of government that are supposed to function independently, overseeing each other, not just the oversight of by the legislative arm alone,
right.
Overseeing each other and checking the excesses of one another. But we have a law, we have a system, a body of laws that allow that not to be really possible. That what we now have is a case of an absolute leader. The president in this country is more powerful than just about any president of his counterpart anywhere in the world because of our laws. So we need to be able to put everybody in place. If everybody has to self-check himself before he's checked, then you know you are getting close to where you want to go.
All right,
but let me say, as part of our solution,
yes.
One of the things we should consider is turning our geopolitical zones into geoeconomic zones, where not just geoeconomic zones, geoeconomic and political zones, where each geopolitical zones can elect its own president, and let those 6 presidents, as we have it right now, be the body of executives, and let them from among themselves elect a president.
Essentially, Fred, that takes us back to having to take a second look at the Constitution,
yes,
and then change the fundamentals. Let's spend the next.
But do you know there's something I want to just a second.
Yes.
What, like I keep saying, people are very good at manipulating institutions. Let me give you an example. The Constitution is very clear and explicit on how a chief judge should be removed. But you and I saw what happened, how the process and the institution were manipulated to achieve a primordial desire. You saw what happened in the removal of Onoge. There are laid down procedures. The institution is well defined. The procedure is well defined. The institutions are strong on how a CJN should be removed. But because the leadership wanted to manipulate the system, and it was so manipulated for a single desire, though a single primordial and regional or clannish desire. The situation was so manipulated, the institutions were so manipulated, at the end of the day, they arrived at what they pre-arranged.
So again, that takes us to what is it, Honorable Adams, the fact that we need to check our laws and then get to address issues from that fundamental level. But our time is fast spent now. Let's see how we can invest in the next 12 minutes to talk about something else, gentlemen. The Shiites and the fact that that group, the Islamic movement in Nigeria now, as we know it, has been banned, as I mean, to put it in a much simpler term. Let me begin with you again, Honorable Adams. You are a lawyer. This group has posed threats on many fronts, especially when you look at it from the angle of the series of protests that it had put up across Abuja. But now they say they've put an end, or they've temporarily suspended protests.
Temporarily.
And of course, they are challenging the fact that the government, I mean, they've been banned following a court order. In fact, they are going to file a suit to challenge that position. This morning, what are your sentiments, basically?
Well, to start with, let me say the matter is sub judice.
Yes.
And we should be careful the way we discuss it. But be that as it may, Nigeria government must be careful not to drag this country into the age-long disagreement or dichotomy between the Sunni and the Shia.
So I was saying this is purely religious?
Yeah, it's purely religious. Because those who are in the health affairs in this country now, they are predominantly, or all 100%, they are Sunnis. That is why, if you look at the synopsis, you will discover that there has been a serious interdenominational clashes between the Sunni and the Shia. And we must be careful not to bring this religious disagreement or these denominational differences into our socio-political life as a nation.
But the federal government feels it's already infringing
I'm coming.
issues of national security.
Yes, no!
And government must act.
It was the government that pushed, if they feel that the country is going to have a security challenges or a threat from the Shia movement, it is precipitated on what the inhuman treatment, the unconstitutional and illegal handling of the crisis between the Kaduna State government and the Shia movement, because they are being pushed to the wall. Now you cannot kill a set, imprison their leader, and you will expect them to keep quiet, be looking at you. The law we are having, not what we are saying, by now Abuja would have been a ghost of itself. The law we are having is that it is not in the doctrine of the Shia to carry arms. That is the saving grace. That is why we must be careful, so that what happened in the case of Boko Haram, you know how Muhammad Yusuf was killed, that gave birth to Boko Haram. What makes you think that Shia cannot change their doctrine now and start carrying arms?
I think that's what the federal government is.
So the federal government should please, for God's sake, we are pleading with Buhari and his handlers. Let him not throw this country into further crisis.
Let me talk about Amnesty International quickly, and Rosal, thank you for your brilliant position on this matter. Amnesty International is already, I don't want to say meddling, but it's interfering already. It's bringing an angle into this IMN issue. It's saying that the federal government is moving fast to take advantage of the law to ban this group in order to shield the fact that the military had killed many members of the IMN. A lot of people are saying that the AI, as we know it, that is the Amnesty International, is overstepping its bounds with issues concerning Nigeria, because they boxed up with President Muhammadu Buhari when it comes to providing security for people of this country. And for as long as he's taking the right steps and making the right moves towards ensuring that the issue of national security is made priority number one, then Amnesty International has no business putting their mouth here.
So I beg to disagree. Nigeria is a signatory to the United Nations treaty. Okay. And one of the guarantees of the United Nations is the freedoms of the individuals. So if you are not willing to guarantee freedoms, the major freedoms we know, freedom of expression, freedom of religion, freedom of movement, then you cannot be a member of the United Nations. So having signed that, having determined that we will be a member of that body, then we must also respect the provisions of that treaty. And part of the provisions is to accord to all peoples and groups within your territory those freedoms. The Shiites believe that their freedoms have been trampled upon, and so they are agitating to be treated like everyone else is treated. That goes back to what I was saying just before we transitioned into this new topic. If we had a more independent geopolitical zones, then those who function separately can function within their zone according to their beliefs. I don't want to be troubled by the dichotomy or the differences between the Shiites and the Sunnis. In every Islamic sect, in any Islamic group, congregation, you are going to have members of either group.
Right.
Just like in the Christian faith, you are going to have the Orthodox worshippers. You are going to have the Pentecostal worshippers. The reason we are having problems is because they have fundamentals that to them are so different that they believe they have to fight over it. In Christendom, we don't fight over our differences in our interpretation of the Bible. Not because everybody agrees on the interpretation. You can only interpret it to the extent to which you know it. So what we do have is a situation where we have laws that do not provide for the protection of the rights of the individual. When you start drafting your laws, from the standpoint of providing for the individual and protections of the individual, then you get it right. But when you start doing it in terms of groups first, then you are bound to make the kind of errors we find ourselves.
Prof, there's also a position that this group, the Islamic movements in Nigeria, would have processions from Kaduna State to several other states across the northern part of the country. In some cases, even trampling on the rights of other road users, including commuters and motorists. They say with much rights comes responsibility. So it's a two-way traffic, isn't it?
Yeah. Let me start from here, provide questions. Is the government of President Buhari aware that on Fridays, in most states or cities of the north, that the roads are blocked by those who worship, come to worship?
Even in Benin here.
That is, if we're going to Gombe one day, we came to Bauchi and couldn't progress.
Yes.
Because the Muslims were praying on the road. Is it today? Is it shy that they are starting this? That is one question. The second question is, has the herdsmen that is maiming and killing across Nigeria been banned? Or Miyati Allah that are taking responsibility for most killings of by herdsmen in this country? Have they been banned? But they were quick to banning IPOB and the others, you know, labeling their as terrorist group. You are now labeling IMS as a terrorist group. What are you waiting for the headsmen and then Miyati Allah? So if you look at this, you will discover the same thing I've been talking about insincerity,
double standards.
Let me see. He has talked about compartmentalizing this country. Let us compartmentalize this country to areas that we can handle. Let's push this crisis to a certain zone, and all of us face the war there squarely by regionalizing. That is what he meant.
All right, let's tie it up now.
Now, look, that's what I keep saying. That we have all the legal framework. Do you know, with due respect to his lordship, the judge that gave the ruling on the ex parte motion filed by the AG Federation, I would say that order.
That's the order prescribing.
Yeah, the order prescribing the child movement or the IMN. That order was issued per Icorium. It was in error. A clear violation of the provision of the 1999 Constitution as amended. Because Chapter 4 of the Constitution is very clear. The African Charter on Human and People's Rights, which has been domesticated in this country, is very clear. So you cannot stop people from assembling themselves. It's just that they are being provoked into turning the protest into violence, because for the past 3 years now they've been protesting. The child movement have been protesting. Their leaders have been incarcerated, the wife incarcerated, they have been killed. Amnesty just published the figure now. It's alarming for a country that close to 1,200 of child members have been slaughtered. And you have said the children protest. And in most of these their protests, it normally turn violent when there is excessive use of force by the police. So they have their right as entrenched in the Constitution. They have their right as entrenched in African Charter on Human People's Rights to freely assemble themselves and express their grievances. So the constitutional protection which they enjoy, what happens to it? That is why I've always said that we have the legal framework, but people have always learned to manipulate the legal framework to suit their clannish, regional and religious positions. All they want to do is to silence the shy. I'm not a Muslim, but I'm talking as a minister in the temple of justice.
All right. I think incidentally that's the much you can take on this discussion. Thank you, gentlemen, for coming. Professor Julius Yasele is ASU Chairman, Uniben Chapter. Then Fred Uyigwe is political and economic analyst. Lastly, we have Honorable Nosa Adams, a lawyer and a politician as well. Gentlemen, thank you for bringing so much of brilliance to the program this morning. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right, that's TMI so far. Discussion concerned. We'll take a quick break now. I'll be back shortly to tie it up on the program. Stay with me.